Hello, and welcome to the Superintendent Spotlight Podcast, where each month we will explore an important topic or initiative being worked on in the Mashpee Public Schools. I am your host, David Thompson, the proud interim superintendent of the Mashpee Public Schools, and I welcome you to our podcast.
So, this is Dr. Thompson. I am here at Mashpee Middle High School with two esteemed guests, Aisha and Principal Brady, and we're going to talk about school culture at the high school, and particularly peer leaders. So I'd kind of like to start. Aisha, why don't you kind of introduce yourself and all the various roles that you do, because I know that if there's a poster for involved studenthood, you're probably front and center on it.
So I'm Aisha. I'm a senior at Mashpee Middle High School. I am the peer leader of the peer leaders that we have at Mashpee Middle High School. I am a part of all of the honor societies in different capacities, so either as treasurer, vice president, president, and then I am a captain of the varsity field hockey team. I am the vice president of Team Activists, and those are just a couple of things that I do here at Mashpee.
Right, so you might just be a little bit involved?
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit. Okay, good. All right. Well, we're going to talk specifically about peer leaders, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that organization and what the purpose of it is?
Yeah, so peer leaders, the grant was accepted when I was in the 8th grade, and that was after a couple of racist things had happened to me at Mashpee Middle High School regarding some random comments based on me and my identity as a Muslim. And after that, Dr. Hanscom had accepted the grant to start doing peer leaders because she recognized the impact that racism had not only on me, but other students within the Mashpee School District.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that started, it was in 9th grade, and we had the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, to host these trainings. There were 3 in the auditorium where students that wanted to do peer leaders got to be in the auditorium. We met the educative guy. His name was Phil Fogelman, and he taught us basically how to run these different things. So for 9th through 11th grade, so for 3 years, we had done it during wellness classes for 7 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, since the 9th graders that are in school now, they had already taken the peer leader trainings, so we only have it for 7th grade. And this really just goes in from, different microaggressions
Mm-hmm.
to biases that we all have, and how to combat these things and become an ally to those around us.
Cool. So if someone was just heard the term peer leaders, could you kind of, for the incoming 7th graders, or if we have a 6th grader thinking about they might want to join that, you would say peer leaders is a group that...
It's a group that educates. That's really what peer leaders does.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So you're going into these classrooms and you're running, and not just you have a whole group of people,
Yes.
But you're going in, and what are some of the lessons that you're doing?
Yeah, so first we start off with our introduction, and that is really just for them to get to know all the peer leaders and also understand how we're trying to create a safe environment for them to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the 9th grade, obviously speaking up was something that was very difficult because you never knew how someone would judge you. So we're trying to make sure that when you get into 7th grade, when you get into the high school, you know that you have an opinion, you have a voice, and you should use it. We want to make sure that anything that they say, they can say it with their free will, and just to make sure that they're heard.
All right. Awesome. All right. So what else? So what are we looking forward to doing this year? What are some...
Yeah, so this year I'm trying to make sure that all of our lessons, they go perfectly. This year, Principal Brady had suggested that we start doing peer mediation, and that would be if there were ever a conflict within the school, that students would be, basically there to mediate that conversation between the students. It could be a couple of students or a group of students, and that is our goal for this year, is to start that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Anything else we should know about school culture here at the middle high school?
Well, I think school culture overall is actually pretty strong. I see a lot of pride in the building. I think that students do feel like they have a voice, and I do think it's a testament to things like peer leaders and all of the various programs that we have, because we do have many National Honor Society organizations. It's not just regular National Honor Society. We have like the math, we have world languages, we have all different history. I believe that Mashpee Middle High School, instead of having a National Honor Society induction, it's actually called a Night of Honor. And it's all of the many honor societies that come together to do that. And I think between all of those programs, but then also the after school activities and clubs that we have, really makes this a rich environment for students where they do feel like they have a place and they belong. But I love what Peer Leaders does, and my recommendation to add a peer mediation program was because I'm coming from a district that had a really robust peer mediation program with hundreds of kids who are trained peer mediators, and they have very graciously shared with me the training materials for that. So Aisha, I'm putting that on Aisha's plate like she needs anything else. So she and I will look at it and kind of just think about how can we build a peer mediation program, because I would love for her for senior year, before she leaves, to feel like she not only was able to start the peer leader program, but also be the catalyst for the peer mediation program as well. But what I would like to see happen too, and we have talked about this, but I would love to see our peer leaders and peer mediation program to trickle down into the younger grades as well, to go to Quashnet if there were issues, and perhaps speak and teach lessons at Quashnet as well. I think that could be really powerful, and make it a district-wide program instead of just a school-based program. So those are kind of my thoughts about.
Yeah. Well, and it'll be kind of a parting gift. We get that kind of off. Yeah. The legacy, opportunity to leave even more of a legacy.
Yeah.
So anything else people at home should know about what we're doing with peer leaders and why it's important?
I feel like that's pretty much like peer leaders is something that, I feel like has made a really big impact. Like, we've had a lot of issues when it comes to, bullying or, racism, just like it is in every other school. But I feel like since peer leaders has started, like, we've had a really exponential decrease of all these different instances. And I think that it's actually working.
Good. Well, I can tell you after, having 2 days of residency, this is just an incredible place to spend time at. And I'm really glad to be part of it. And thank you both for your time this morning.
Thank you
as well.
All right. Welcome back. I am here with some more esteemed guests. I have Brian Prana, who is the assistant principal at the Coombs School, Beth Siegel, who is one of the BCABAs at the Coombs School, and Elijah Switzer, who is the principal of the Quash School. And we are going to again continue the conversation on what we're doing for school culture, and in particular, kind of targeting in on No Place for Hate. So I'm going to throw out the first question. What is No Place for Hate?
Sure. So last year we were tasked to implement No Place for Hate, which is a program through the Anti-Defamation League, and really targeting making sure people feel included in the building and making sure that people's voices are heard, and that we're building a culture of acceptance and welcoming every single person that walks into our building. So we really took that as a challenge to make sure that we felt that we are implementing programming to make sure kids feel included. So Beth Siegel, our BCBA, really took the lead and the charge on creating some really incredible lessons that target this specifically. One of our lessons that we were really proud of had to do with fitting in at MPS. Beth Siegel worked with Jackie Friel, who is our art teacher as well, and they taught lessons about how we fit. And then kids took puzzle pieces, and we actually made a giant mural that was a visual, so kids at our level, we're a pre-K to 2 school, can really see that everybody matters and that everybody should and will be supported. It's not necessarily like, can we? It's we will support you. No matter who you are, where you come from, everything, and you're welcome here at school. Beth, do you want to take a little bit about one of those lessons?
Sure. So as part of that lesson, we read the book All Are Welcome Here, and students contributed with their own drawings on those art puzzle pieces. Another lesson that we did was talking about what it means to be included and excluded, and we integrated our social emotional lessons and curriculum into that lesson, really teaching students what those concepts mean and how they relate to their experience at school. And then we interviewed and made a video of students that were new to KCC this year and presented it in all the classrooms, and had, a component of this program is really making sure that students are participating through discussion. So we had discussions in each classroom about, what we could do better as a school community to make sure that people are included and excluded, and each student's own experience.
One of the beauties of the program too is that the lessons that we taught can't be like cookie cutter lessons out of a program. They really have to be specific to our school. So Beth and Ms. Friel did a lot of research on what's the best way that we can approach this topic. And then there's standards based on the lessons that we then have to submit to No Place for Hate to get it approved first. That was the really cool thing, where everything was so individualized just to our school. Principal Switz will be talking a lot more about Washington School, and that's a really cool piece because it's so individually put to that school. One of the cool things too to kick off our No Place for Hate is that we start a rally at the rail. Our school is pretty unique in the sense of the building makeup. So in our library, it's 2 floors. So we have the older kids lining the rail that looks over the library, and we have our youngest students on the floor. And we kick off Rally at the Rail with No Place for Hate. It's an exciting time, and we share and we showcase about how much we love and respect the kids and the staff here at school, and making sure that they all see each other. That was the really big showcase piece, is that all the kids and all the staff saw each other. It wasn't something we just talked about. Then after that, during that, we showed our pledge. Each student in each classroom was given a No Place for Hate promise, and there's specific things that we're promising ourselves that we're taking care of each other. The one thing that Ms. Siegel was talking about too is that kids' voice was at the center of everything that we did. The voice of the kids, even at our grade level, is one of the most important aspects of it. So after the Rally at the Rail, all the kids went back into their classrooms and they all signed the promise. Their teachers signed the promise, administration signed the promise, and then we showcased it throughout the entire building, so it was visually there all the time. It was actually really cool. Last year, we did a presentation, and Ms. Siegel was there with Ms. Friel, and school committee actually signed their own promise from KCCS about No Place for Hate.
Yeah. Could you dig a little deeper into student voice and what that looks like at pre-K through 2?
Sure.
Because that might be a concept
Yeah.
that those at home would have difficulty understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ms. Siegel, do you want to talk about
Sure.
that with that lesson specifically?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
So, we really, I think incorporating student voice starts from the formation of the lessons, as Mr. Prana was talking about. And we really made sure that there was ways for all students to participate. So, there was an end product with several activities. The third activity that we did was, again, a lesson based on a book and included an art project. So there's a hands-on component for younger students to be able to showcase their voice through art. And then also, through class-based discussions, just really tailoring the lessons to them. Every lesson that activity that we came up with was targeted specifically to identified need within our building. So the newcomer lesson, we had a lot of new students last year. That was why we selected that. The third lesson was about just student identity and feeling welcome to be whoever you want to be. And we had some students who were struggling with that concept last year. Mm-hmm. And so we made sure to include the lesson to kind of have a supportive way to include their voice and their struggles within a larger school context.
Excellent.
One of the lessons too with the newcomer piece, students were picked and they were on video and they were asked questions in English if that was their first language, but we also included students that had second languages of Portuguese, and they were asked the same questions and about being included in school, and then the kids were actually, the videos were shown to the classrooms for those lessons. So their voice was the voice of the lesson, not just the product at the end, but the entire focus of making sure that all the kids saw each other. It became so palpable last year about the No Place for Hate and the work that was being done at school, is that kids would tell other kids that were doing things that were kind of like off. They would specifically tell them, hey, we don't do that here because we're a No Place for Hate school. And kids would get it and they'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. We are a No Place for Hate school. It was fantastic, and it became so organically ingrained in the building. And that's why we're really looking forward to kicking off again this year at doing another rally at the Rail in November to kick everything off.
All right, awesome, thanks. Well, let's shift over to the Quashnet and let Principal Switzer talk a little bit about it, because it is a little bit different, different school, different age group.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, what does the program look like at the Quash? What are the goals and methods at that level? And talk a little bit about getting the well, actually, we'll come back to both talking about getting the designation and what does that mean. But
yeah, sure. So I think, Beth and Brian said a lot of really good stuff, and I'll just echo that, the idea is that it's a self-directed program, established by the ADL, but every school is going to look a little different. And really ours it's about, supporting each other and everyone in the school community, staff, parents, students, to prevent conflicts based on things like bias and prejudice. And student voice is also at the center of it for us. So again, just difference in age groups, I think. So what we did is we formed an after-school club that was led by one of our fifth grade teachers, Miss Anesi. And what I would ask them to do is to tell me topics or activities or things they want to focus on. And then we'd meet as teacher teams and really try to bring to life lessons as teams of teachers that were really fed to us from our students. And the whole idea is to empower students and staff to actively challenge these prejudices and combat hate within our community. So our theme last year, we really focused on identity and respecting each other's differences and identities. So like at the Coombs School, we did our 3 activities. As Beth was saying, they all have a product at the end, and they start with student voice, and they're really discussion based. So we started out with an activity called Tree of Respect, and really just diving into like what is kindness and what is respect, and those are really interesting conversations. I highly recommend having them with adults at your own table.
Yep.
We walked through it as a staff, and it was fascinating to sit down, with my different grade level teams and our team of special teachers and even our counselors, and you start to realize that we have differences in so many ways, including what we consider to be respect and kindness. And respect is a tough word to nail down. So they then took those conversations and had them in their classroom. And it was really interesting to see what different students who come to school with different perspectives and different lives at home think of as kindness and respect. So that's where we started. There was an activity that went along with that where students traced their hands, put their definitions, and for the rest of the year in their classrooms, they had a tree with the leaves with their hands, and all these different definitions of respect and kindness. Our second activity built on that. We did identity icebergs, which I think a lot of people might be familiar with, but basically there are 3 levels to your iceberg. It's what you can see about me by looking at me. Most people who look at me can identify that I'm a male. And that's just an example. But the next one is like, if you talk to me for a little while, you might find out that I like to golf. And then there is that third layer of my identity, which is like really only the close things that my friends and family know. So we had all students kind of work on their own self-identity. We thought that was really important. And in fact, our club, our student club really advocated for like our students to work on. So with their peers, they were basically saying, we want to identify who we are as people before we can really respect differences. And then another really cool organic that came out of our club is they then shared with us, the club featured one 6th grader in particular who wanted to advocate to support younger grades. So we ended up pairing up classes. 6th grade went with 3rd grade. It was really cool to see, and they shared their different identities. And it's just amazing how the kids will dive in and the ownership that 6th grade students will take when they have the opportunity to mentor 3rd grade. 4th and 5th also teamed up. And then at the very end with those partners in the other grade levels, they did reflection videos. Like KCC, we did some stuff to kick it off. I'll kind of go back to the beginning on everyone did a feather. We have a big No Place for Hate Falcon with the No Place for Hate pledge. We had our staff wanted to do a video because it was really important to them that they understood it first. So they did a video reciting the pledge. We showed the kids, and we did an assembly. We don't have a cool rail, but I did get to I was actually in the Coos School witness rally the rails. What a cool thing to have all the kids around the rail. So we did assemblies to kick it off. And I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm personally, I imagine you guys are too. I'm very proud of it. I love our banner. It represents a lot of work that our students put in, and difficult topics to talk about. And it's amazing how some kids and a lot of kids will thrive. Like our sixth grade in particular last year, I was really impressed with how much they own this, wanted to dive in and really help the younger students, but also discuss it amongst themselves.
Right. So the one thing that I'm hearing that I'm really impressed with is that even, at all levels, you have the kids deeply involved in this process, and with that comes ownership. So kind of making that transition there. So both schools, which is pretty amazing, we're both designated as No Place for Hate school. So what exactly does that designation mean, and how was it received by your school communities? You started the Coos?
Our school community was, just like what Mr. Switzer was saying, extremely proud of the designation. And the work shows that we're serious and we're committed to supporting all children, all families. It's not just something that we're saying and giving lip service to. It is a real thing that we do every single day to support everybody that walks into our building. That's what we're really proud of. And we as soon as you walk into our building, our designation banner is front and center. It is right there. So when people walk in, they know that they're going to be supported. No matter where they come from, who they are, what they're doing, they're here and we're going to be with them. That's what I think we're most proud of. And I think the really cool thing about it is a district-wide thing, where is that when our little kids come up from Casey Coombs, they're going to go to Quashnet and they're not going to be surprised by No Place for Hate.
Right.
They're going to know about it, and then if they've had that amount of exposure to it and that work, when they get to third grade, think about the amount of different ideas and the other perspectives that they're going to have to push Quashnet's program forward.
Right.
That's what I'm excited about, is helping out Elijah's school too.
Yeah. You're helping out kids in your school, but also helping out.
Yeah, because I think we really need to think globally about this, especially within Mashpee, where we're just not little silos. We're literally a community to make sure that we're supporting each other. So I think the work that we do here at Coombs directly correlates and is hopefully pushing Elijah's school to be even better.
Right.
It's awesome.
All right. So why don't you talk, Elijah, about receiving the award?
Yeah, the designation's awesome. We're nationally recognized now. I'm pretty sure if you go to the ADL website, you can look at all the schools that are nationally recognized. There's about 2,000. I happen to know that this year they have a wait list now because there's so many schools that want to get in the program. But because we did it last year, we got accepted again this year.
That's amazing.
What Mr. Prana said, we are really fortunate to have our schools build on each other, especially when it comes with school culture. As someone who's been in other districts that aren't as aligned as Mashpee, it's actually really impressive. I mean, it's awesome. At Quashnet with the kids, they come up, they know the Falcon 5. In fact, we don't use Quiet Coyote, so it's kind of we're cool. We don't quite need that anymore, but to also continue the Falcon 5. I can't stress how important the Falcon 5 is, and the fact that the kids arrive in third grade and already know the basics. They know what the 5 things are. Our teachers can really push that forward, and then we can get in. I mean, it's exactly where we started for us, which is what is kindness and respect.
Right.
Which is built right in. And then, so going forward, you have to earn the designation every year. I know both schools are working on it again. And I'm excited to see what the Coombs School does. What we're doing this year is we're building on last year. Last year we did identity and recognizing differences and respecting differences. This year we're going to go into conflict resolution and really basic conflict resolution, because that's what I'm hearing from the kids. They want to be able to work things out in ways beyond just always getting that mentality I have to inform an adult. Kids get frustrated when they're, for example, playing soccer and maybe someone gets pushed, but that doesn't have to become a massive issue, and we will help them, we will mediate, but also, so this year we're gonna help them build the skills, because that's ultimately what we do. We teach kids beyond just academics too. And so I'm really excited to kind of build on last year of identity and respecting differences to how we can resolve conflicts as they come up this year. And so our first activity this year is coming up. It's November 4th. I will also add to what Mr. Prana said. It's not only cool that the students get it, but we advertised it pretty well last year.
Yep.
So last year I did get some questions from families, which was awesome. When I put on the newsletter, what is No Place for Hate? They were curious. This year, I didn't get as many inquiries, but that's also because people are familiar with it.
Right.
Their kids want to come to school. We do it on half days to make it fun. We want kids to come to school on half days. It's another little pitch too. Attendance is important. But so that's just really exciting that we get to build on last year and take it a step forward into helping students build conflict resolution skills at our age group.
Yeah. To add something with the designation piece is that No Place for Hate reached out to us and they asked if they could use one of the lessons that Ms. Siegel and did as an exemplar lesson for other schools that have been
Congratulations.
going to the designation. So that was absolutely incredible and really proud about too. So our lessons are actually being promoted for other schools around the country as like an ideal lesson to do. So it's pretty. I was very proud about that. That's absolutely incredible.
So Quashnet already has a theme for this year. What are we doing at the Coombs? Anything different? Adding anything in or?
So our theme last year was based on our fitting in Mashpee, right? So that was our theme from last year and making sure that everybody felt like that piece. We have we are also a PBIS school, and we have a meeting coming up to talk just about our theme for the year and what we want to do.
Right.
And then incorporating that within our No Place for Hate rally at the rail. But that's news coming up. And just like what Principal Switzer was talking about with talking more about it with parents, is that will be in our blog, the Falcon Eye that goes out every Friday. When more information comes up, and please feel free to give me a call or Principal O'Brien if you have any questions about No Place for Hate, or if you want support with it, or if your child has questions. We have an incredible guidance staff that can support everybody.
Excellent. All right. So again, this is just one of many things that we're doing in our schools to work on school culture. I'm going to throw a softball out there so who can slam dunk this one. But why is school culture important? Why do we care about school culture?
It's just important to be kind to people. I mean, at the root of everything we do, we are academic institutions, right? And kids learn best when they feel comfortable. Kids learn best when they know people are going to be kind to them. And teachers are best in their practice when they also know people are going to be kind to them. So if everyone's getting along, we can really maximize our academics. And also, there's so much that goes into school, from evening events to recess to lunch to things everything that the PTO does. So the more we can build on our school culture and people have a positive relationship with school, the better learning outcomes we'll have.
And I think that's the key word, Elijah, which is relationships. Yeah. That's when I think about school culture, I think about relationships and building upon the things that we have and strengthening those things. And also recognizing, and we talked a little bit about this at school committee last week when our kids were there from the Coombs School to showcase our PBIS program, is that we need to have a relationship first before we can kind of move forward with literally anything. And to build upon like what Principal Switcher was talking about, is that we are academic institutions. Pre-K to 2 at Coombs, we are focused on the most important aspects of academics right now. But we need to have that culture of respect and understanding and relationships all the time, because when things go awry, you'll know who's calling you, and you know that everybody in the school is on the same page and on the same team to move every single person in that school forward. It's all about relationships and making sure that people feel supported, seen, and heard.
Right. Beth, you want to any last thoughts on that?
I mean, for me, I want kids to feel comfortable and safe and happy at school. I think, especially in an early education building, we have the opportunity, and it's a wonderful opportunity to really impact the way students and families feel about a school system and about their educational journey. And I think if we can make really positive strides and work on those relationships, kids are going to want to come to school. And I always tell our teachers, if you make a really good connection with your kid, you can change their entire trajectory of being successful within school. And that has huge ramifications for students and families within our district.
Yeah. School culture is the foundation we build everything else off of. So appreciate you guys taking the time to come talk to us and share your work. I can tell you personally, I've been very impressed visiting all of your schools and the culture that is there. It is obviously a very connected community, and people really, really care about each other. And the kids care about their teachers, and the teachers care about their kids, and they're caring about each other as well. And that makes Mashpee a special place. So with that being said, thank you. This is Dr. Dave Thompson. Thank you for listening to the Superintendent Spotlight podcast. This will be a monthly podcast, so please subscribe and give us a thumbs up or 5 stars depending on the platform you're using. If you have a suggestion for future topics, please send them along to the district office, and have a nice day.